2, 1. Timer starts now.
Yeah, do that clap. That's
Click.
official.
1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Action.
What's up, everybody? This is Rob Ridley and Jeremy Donch. We're coming to you live from National Fire Radio. We got Chris Naylis. Did they say it right, Chris?
Yeah, Naylis, like the horse.
Naylis, yeah, all right. Because I'm horrible at names. I can screw up a name. It's like, this is John Smith. And I'm like, hello, John Smythe.
Smythe.
It's horrible. So anyway, you're with the Bergenfield Fire Department
Yep.
here in Bergenfield, New Jersey. Here to talk to us a little bit today about your first fire and a couple other topics. So let's jump into some of this stuff here. First fire. What was your first fire?
My first fire, actually, it was, not the greatest one to fight. It was a 3-story walk-up apartment building, and it was a gas explosion. So by the time I showed up, I was actually down in college. I see a huge column of smoke coming up the turnpike. I went to New Jersey City University, so coming out of Jersey City up the turnpike, I'm like, man, somebody's got a good job
Yeah,
going.
right.
I'm like, start calling everybody, hey, what's going on? And nobody's answering their phones. I'm like, getting closer and closer. I'm like, dude, this sounds like it might be, our job.
Yeah, right.
I didn't even know at this point, the building blew up. But, so I got closer, got there, and realized that, that was my first fire. I just become a regular member. I just come off probation, the meeting before, so it was like 2 weeks before.
I had a very similar experience.
And you have this, massive job going, and right there, they really weren't doing it. Everything was defensive operations at that point, so it was kind of like standing around. So it really wasn't like the greatest first job, that I actually fought. It was really my second one was more memorable for me. Actually being being on the first due engine, riding out of the house, it was a job. Chief's on the scene. He's telling you, they got smoke showing, they got a fire going, and in our town we have a lot of garden apartment style, 2.5-story, 3-story garden apartment townhouses. And we get that one, he's telling you got a working fire going, and I'm on the engine. I'm like, well, all right, this is the first one.
Right in the back seat.
Right in the back seat. It was like, a couple months after we had that fire,
Right.
the building explosion. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm sitting there. It's just, I got a guy's got like 25 years. He's like, all right, this is nothing. It's another easy job. We're gonna bang this out, take this. We'll be done. We're wrapped up in an hour. We'll be out of here. I got another guy who's got probably about 15 years at that point. I'm sitting in the back crapping myself like,
Absolutely.
Oh God, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So and they're like, yeah, you got the nozzle. You're it. And I'm like, what?
Jackpot.
What are you kidding me? And it's it's a great you're training for that.
Sure.
We do a lot of training, and we did a lot of live fire training. We have our own training facility that we do a lot of live fire. And so I'm like, I was nervous about it, but still like, all right, let's get the hose off, get it out of the bed, get the cross leg, get it flaked. Who's gonna be my backup guy? Get the second set of loops out, and all the way to the front door. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Like, how am I gonna be the first guy?
So garden apartment, fire showing.
Yep, fire showing out the rear.
So already self-vented out the rear.
Already self-vented. I'm like, all right, this
Makes for a nice push.
Sounds like this will be an easy one.
Right.
Yeah, great. You get into the first intermediate landing, blacked out smoke condition because they had the door left open, can't see a thing. I'm like, all right, let's call for water, get some water going, and they're just like pushing me, let's go. I'm like, where am I gonna go?
Senior man's behind you?
Senior man's behind you, pushing you.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. And he's like, if you're not gonna go, I'm gonna take the knob from you. I'm like, well, I don't want to give it up.
Never.
I got my mask up. I got my knees on the line so no one steals it from me. Because in our department, they say if a hose line's sitting there, you're grabbing it.
That's right.
If nobody has it, you're taking it and running. And I actually later on in my career, a couple times did that, guys. That's how you get a little bit of a reputation. But it is what it is.
It happens. You dare to do the job.
I'm protecting that thing like
That's right.
like it's my baby. I'm holding on to it. I got my knees on it. I got my gloves down on the ground. I'm all ready to go. And we start stretching in, and they're just pushing me. I can't see anything. We didn't have a tick with us, because at that point it was 2005-ish.
Right.
You don't have too many. The departments didn't have a lot of ticks going.
Sure.
On. There's new technology. There's probably like 3 or 4 in the entire department. We didn't have one with us on the first. The first 2 truck had one, so they're in there searching. I can hear them banging around there, yelling, where the fire is. I can't see a thing. I'm like, what the heck did I get myself?
How was the heat?
Actually, wasn't too terrible because it was self-venting.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, I've had more in training, but but the thing that gets you, it's just a blacked out smoke condition. You can't see anything, even with a tick. Sometimes you got it right pressed up to your face. You can't see it sometimes. You're just going by the feel of heat. I'm throwing my hand up in the air trying to get see where it's coming from. And finally, it was actually a back rear bedroom. It took a little while to get. You had to go through the kitchen to get there and get it. But they're behind me, pushing me. Let's go. It's off to the left. Crawl through. Get going. I'm like, where am I going? I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
You can't see anything. And we got in there, knocked it down, hit it, and it was just pretty much kept it to one room. But it's having that adrenaline rush, having that first fire, making sure everything goes right, calling for water at the right time, making sure you have the line bled out, all the things that go back to your training, and just trying to remember it. And you're like in the meantime, crapping yourself, like I said before, like you want to make sure you don't do anything wrong. Because I got these, salt dogs with me that are like, let's go, let's
Yeah,
go, let's
and
go.
for you, how old are you?
18 years old.
18, right?
Yeah.
Fresh out of the academy,
Yeah.
caught a job. They
Yeah.
put you on the nozzle, right? So, testament to your training,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all the things you
Absolutely.
just listed are things that, comes with seasoning,
Yeah.
and over time. And the fact that you had those instilled into you and those type of training techniques, put your hand up, advance, call for what, like all the things that you're supposed to be doing, sounds like you did it. I mean, it sounds fantastic.
But like hindsight, looking back at it, you had these senior guys, 25 years, 15 years on, in your department, pushing you, and there's got to be now you've obviously been to a few more fires, so you know exactly what they were
been to
doing.
one or two more.
Yeah, right?
But just that culture of because I've seen it before where people are just like, no, like
Yeah, I'm not going.
or they're like, I'm not giving you the line, like but they get it, your department's culture and training seems like it's kind of pushing that forward to be like, hey, this is your time
Go.
to get that experience, and we're gonna see what happens.
Because they've
And
been
that's
there.
awesome.
They've been there. So, a lot of our older guys, they're like, and they, not to just throwing you to the wolves, but they're just like, let's go. It's
No,
your
they're
time.
keeping an eye
go.
on you. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I knew like pretty much nothing's gonna happen to me because I know I got a couple guys that are real good experience. Guys were past chiefs, and I'm like, all right, I'm comfortable enough to know that they're not gonna let me go farther than what's safe, but at the same time, they're pushing you to get that experience, get in there, get that heat, get that smoke, see what it's like. So this way, as you're coming up,
Absolutely.
you can do the same for guys behind you.
Well, it says a lot about yourself too, because being a new kid in the firehouse, and you had senior guys that were willing to give you that position and trust you enough to be in that position. You're a squared away brother. You're not, you're not a skell. You're not a mutt in the firehouse that doesn't belong in that position. And so, it's kudos to you by all means.
I was listening to a thing on YouTube, and the guy was he was talking about I can't remember his name, but he said the morons in the fire service, and he said he's like, by the way, I want to start off, and I'm one of the C shift guys, and it was like got a couple of chuckles, but he said I'm not going to talk about the morons and what you're thinking of. I'm actually thinking about the intellectual, your IQ test and where it was, and he was going through all this stuff about history, World War I, and how he said like there's an actual article from the Massachusetts Institute of the Stupid and Incompetent or something like that. Like it was
That's a thing.
Yeah, it was 1900s.
Yeah, right.
World War I.
I think they still have membership. I think they're still taking applications.
Yeah, we call it something else now.
Yeah, we got a few we could send over.
It's a different probationary program, but they went on this whole thing about how like there's that differentiation of the people who know how to do the job and are with it.
Yeah.
And then those who aren't. How we've kind of in some areas of the country we've let morons really come on
wild.
in. Yeah, I mean it's like we need bodies. Let's get a pulse in here. And like you talked about that draft in World War I. You don't have licenses or anything else. It was like, hey, if you come through this door and you tell us you're 18,
Good to go.
Yeah.
we're going to give you that rifle and that uniform, and you're going to go fight the war. And they were like, wow, this is not working. And I mean, hey, we won, so awesome. Back
Wait,
champs, right?
blue
But-
T-shirt culture doesn't work though. Like, hey, join, we'll give you a T-shirt, and
Yeah.
you're a body. Thanks for coming.
And that's one of the things for your own department there. I mean, just taking some notes as you're talking about, like that aggressiveness with the line, and having that mentality come out. It's like because sometimes you say you got that reputation,
Yeah.
but it's hard to explain to somebody when you're talking to them about it because you're like, yeah, there's a reputation that goes with being aggressive with the line, but it also instills a discipline in the guys that like, that line is your life and in the fire, and it's going to protect either victims from
Get yourself out.
exposed, they're
Without a
exposed to
doubt.
fire, or just protecting your truck crew if they're going above you. So I mean I really was excited to hear that when you said that. So, Chris, what's one of your best accomplishments that you've had so far in the fire service?
I mean, aside from becoming the chief of the department, and I'm a pretty young guy, 30 years old. I think I'm the second youngest chief. The other guy had me by a couple months. He was 29. But that was back in 1985, I think. when
Yeah,
it was,
wow.
You could just run through the ranks. You could join and run through the ranks. There was like no training, no certification requirements. So
Right.
So I think probably the biggest accomplishment is becoming chief at such a young age. That's definitely one of my big things. But I think the one thing that overshadows that, and I sent it to Jeremy, was the rescuing of a trapped lady, unconscious lady. We had a job going 7:30 a Sunday morning. reported dwelling fire, and first Sunday in June, so you're figuring, all right, people are out and about. If it's a fire, somebody's going to say something. Nobody's around. There was nobody reported it, just like a passerby. They didn't even stay. PD shows up, they're like, yeah, this house is chugging along. We got a job going. Then at this point, I'm now the captain of the engine company. Had a real good guy with me. He's got I got 14 years. He has 15. He was in just ahead of me. Real good nozzle guy. He's a career fireman as well. So he's gung ho. He's got the same training I did, and very gung ho mentality. Let's go in there. Let's get it. And we stretch off, and the truck's pulling up. They pretty much pull up simultaneously. Truck guys get off, front door. I'm the first one up to the landing. Check the screen door, storm door, locked. All right, we got a 4th entry. Get to the front door now. Front door's locked. Okay. Truck guys, do your thing. Tell my nozzle guy, give it a couple shots. Now it's self-venting out the front, picture window. We know we got a good fire roaring, 1.5 story frame, and truck officer, truck fireman, pushes the door a little bit, has some resistance, and he's like, I think I got something behind the door. Like, all right, what do you got? And he pushes in. He's like, I got a victim.
Wow.
And you're just like, until it happens to you,
Sure.
you train for it, and you have dummies, and you're searching, firehouse, and you do these things to locate a victim. And until you actually do it, and it actually hits you, and this is the real deal now, you have somebody unconscious laying behind a door. Just the utter shock, it was like overwhelming. And I'm like, all right, now we got a radio out. Let the chief know we found somebody, and it's this soon into the operation. Who else is in the house? Where else are they?
Sure, absolutely.
So now, all right, we got one at the front door, possibly a second, occupant in there, and I was talking about, blacked out smoke conditions before. This was one of the ones that was really kind of scary. You go in, you had a very high heat condition right at the front door. The fire's blowing out, self-vent,
Put you right to the floor.
auto exposing, putting you right to the floor. Grabbing this lady, get her out. She ended up being, I think, 92 years old.
Wow.
She looked like she was probably about, maybe in her 60s. Phenomenal shape. She just looked, tried to self-extricate, face down in front of the door, blocked the door, pushing that door open, getting her out, grabbing her with the truck guys, and she was unconscious when we yanked her, and we got her outside. One of the paramedics, who's pretty local to our area, was right there. Was walking up the street. They're like, hey, this unconscious victim coming out. He went right to work on her. They got her revived.
Awesome.
And we gave her, I think, 360 more days, on Earth. And she ended up dying as a result of her injuries. But one of the real more satisfying things is she, sent a nice letter after she kind of came back, went to rehab in a little bit, and thanked us for getting her out. And then upon her passing, she left our department a $10,000 donation.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So it really felt good, as a boss, for the guys to really, do what they did, yanking her out. Me telling them, hey, this is what we got. This is what we got to do. Everybody kind of working together. Truck working with the engine. Meanwhile, my guy's on the nozzle. He's penciling down the fire auto exposing to give us a little bit more time to try to get in there and get anybody else. Her son actually was farther deep into the house. He succumbed to his injuries, so it's kind of a disappointing thing. But
Yeah.
So you have disappointment on one hand, but you're able to rescue another one, and it was one of the more astounding accomplishments.
Sure.
I think
that will stay with you,
because
absolutely.
and it'll stay with me forever. Until you have your first one, it's like it was a great feeling. Kind of joy and jubilation, but kind of sorrow at the same time. So it was it was a very fine kind of line to walk there, being happy that you grab somebody, but also somebody
Yeah.
else perishes. But
Well, I also think that just in training alone, you train. Like you mentioned about like you're inside, you're pulling these mannequins out and everything else, and you're doing all this simulation. And there's two types that go with this. Like we have that one like you just described. You're at a house fire, and like I forget the line who said it, but like the garbage man's not surprised when he sees
yeah,
garbage
he turns the
cans.
corner and he has
and you see
jump
fire.
for joy.
You should, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like you do when you do come across that person who's now that you're doing a search for life and you've done it multiple times. Now there's somebody here. It's almost like the car comes to a complete halt in the
Yeah,
middle of the road.
absolutely.
And then now you're like it's that brief pause. It only takes like a fraction of a second, and then you're back in the game.
Yeah.
But then in the other one, like I had somebody up in Fairview, and we were told they were trapped, and we ended up going up there. And I just remember like when I actually came face to face with a person in the smoke, and there was this like fleeting moment of like, oh crap.
Yep.
Like now, like I was responsible before this, and now I'm really responsible.
Yeah.
Like I hope I don't screw this up. And then that lady fought me because her dog she's like, I'm not leaving without my dog. She started to like dig in, and I'm like,
No, you come.
we got it. I go through the smoke. My partner had a dog, like a little football, and I was like, all right, we can go.
We
And,
got it. Let's go.
but yeah, that's always something. So
What an accomplishment, though. I mean, that's incredible, right? All
Yeah.
the,
Yep.
you know, 30 years old, so you've been 12 years in the department.
About 12 years.
And, some guys go through a whole career never making a grab or having a situation that they get put in firsthand. Maybe that might be on the fire ground, but they're not the one to actually make that grab. Maybe they're a part of it. But the fact that your crew got penciled back to fire, held the fire in check, right? So you guys were able to make the removal, forcible entry. I mean, these are all things that add to the, grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
The ultimate goal. And,
We looked at it. We was like, that fire could have went way worse. It could have went,
Sure.
totally south. And we say to a lot of people, and it's a shame, but you put that fire in some other places, and it's not going to turn out the same result.
You're absolutely right.
So, it's a testament to the guys, and the members of the department actually committing to the training, doing what they're supposed to do. People pushing forward and overcoming a real big obstacle, and having that lady there. That's a pretty strong obstacle to overcome.
Without a doubt.
That a lot of people probably just would have been like, all right, time to go home, forget about it. After the guys they yanked her, and they were kind of they're mentally spent. Those guys, they need to be rehabbed, but it just goes, it's a testament to the training that everybody has and the culture of our fire department. I put in my notes, we have our own live fire training facility. We're
Right.
one of the only ones, one of the three in entire Bergen County, and people come to us
Right.
for the training.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I've trained there. It's fantastic
It's
facility.
great, and it gives these people the smoke, the heat, and the fire that you not necessarily would have otherwise.
Right.
And it's that enables my department to be kind of head and shoulders above a lot of other people, and I'm proud to say that because
Of course.
I get to fight fires every week. Yes, they're training fires, but at the same time, it's fire experience. It's
but
getting
it's going
the
through
guys to
that
heat.
muscle memory.
Absolutely.
And because I think on the side, I'm a firearms instructor, and people want to know how to do self-defense stuff, and it's all muscle memory of coming up out of that holster, bringing up front sight on the target, putting two hands on the gun, and pulling the trigger. And especially having that option in the background of being like, hey, we have this, live fire facility in the back. We can do this pretty much when we're dedicated to
Yeah.
do it, which sounds like you guys are up there. So talk to me about the culture of Bergenfield, because it's kind of like it's bubbling up to the surface here as you're going through talking about the first fire that you went to. This one where you had the garden style apartment fire, and then this one getting this woman out. What's the culture in Bergenfield, and how is it barreling through the hurdles in today's fire service?
So I think one of the biggest thing is training, like we've been talking about for a little while here. For our department, we're training. My company, we have 3 companies in town. We're training drilling 5 times a month. That's not including your meeting night. That's not including your cleanup night. We're training 5 nights, 4 Fridays. People look at us and say, "What are you, crazy? You giving up a Friday night to go train?" Well, yeah, that's because we're serious about it.
Yeah.
We give up our Fridays, and 2 hours. What's 2 hours? It's nothing. 10 o'clock, 10:30, you're wrapped up. Guys want to go out after? Hey, you go. So the culture is training, and it's a lot of the older guys that have been there 30, 40, some 50-year members.
It's nice to have that.
It's nice to have.
Yeah.
They show this is what has gone on, in the past, and you grow from it. This training facility that we have, it wasn't just overnight like, hey, let's build a training facility. It started like way back in the 70s. They were pushing it, and even then they were like, hey, we see a need for training. We have to train our people. Mawa's not the closest place. Probably it takes about an hour round trip, up and back. By the time you get up there, get settled, get ready to go, you don't have that much training time. We need something locally, and we really built that facility for ourselves, just to for our guys, because of the culture of training. They took it so seriously, and they built that, and we pushed it. And really, the culture in the department is to train. We're dedicated to training. We're not very flashy. If you look at our rigs, we don't have every light under the sun. We don't have Q sirens out the wazoo.
Right.
It's functional apparatus. Get the job done. It's not a lot of glitz and glamour. It's just functional. Get in there, get it done, and that's kind of the culture we like. It's
Now, I want to go. You said you got these 30 and 40-year members of the department, and I think there's going to be some viewers out there that are thinking, or there might even be a listener who's out there and be like, well, hey, I got some 30 and 40-year-old guys like them. I'm doing pretty good, but I feel like these are like not your typical 30 and 40-year members of the department. Like in my mind, I'm thinking of like, hey, hey, we're gonna switch to these nozzles, and all of a sudden you hear it in the back.
Yeah.
It's the dinosaurs. They start mowing. They got that.
There's definitely still a little bit of that,
But it sounds like there's this like not in that culture. There's these guys that are back there who are really coming forward. Tomorrow, I say like, hey, these 30 and 40 year guys are gone. How does it change your organization?
really just the institutional knowledge. It would disappear if a guy like that walked out the door. You don't have somebody to go back to and say, hey, 20 years ago, did you do this? Or a situation comes up and arises. What happened then? That just kind of instantly disappears.
Yeah.
We just had our career captain. We're a combination fire department. We had our career captain retire. He was 30 years career. He was a volunteer for 35 years, and he walked out the door and he's gone. That's a person you rely on to, hey, give me your information. What did you see? What are your experiences? Everybody's got something to offer, and if somebody like that walked out the door, it'd be tragic to our department. But again, it goes back to them passing their knowledge along. So even me being a 14-year member, I have a lot of that old institutional knowledge because guys have talked about it. They've talked about what's gone on in the past, how it relates to stuff going on now, what trends are moving forward, and that's kind of where I see it.
Do you find in your department? Do you find the newer generation? Do they value the expertise? Do they value and understand how important it is for that 30 years of experience? Because I know, like in my own department, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think it's a challenge across the board. So, but I do find that departments that are strongly rooted in their membership and in training and things that make us a proactive and progressive department, we tend to have it better than others.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling you guys probably do as well.
I mean, it's kind of like 50-50 because some people come in, they see and we've had a lot of people come from other departments move into town, and they come and they're like, hey, I'm looking to join, and we say like, look, this is the requirements. We're basically going to ask you for 5 nights a month to train, and they're looking at you like, what?
Yeah.
We train once a month in my fire department, or some departments don't even train at all. And it's like to hear that, and you're like,
Scary.
What?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What? But some of the newer people coming in, it's kind of tough. You have to really try to relate to some of these, to the younger kids. You got to use some more technology. You got to use, some more videos, some more things. The biggest challenge I find with the newer generation, they don't have a lot of mechanical knowledge and a lot of mechanical, skill sets. Whereas guys coming in, with me 15 years ago, I was pretty decent. I landscaped. I used power tools growing up, so I had a really good working knowledge of how to use things and adapt to the fire service. Now I got these kids coming in, and all they know is how to play video games, and they got great thumbs, but take a saw and go cut rebar off a window to vent the window. It's
as simple as putting fuel in a fan.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
they run their car out of fuel because they didn't know, or they run their car out of oil because they didn't know they had to do an oil change.
Well, you got to explain to somebody it's mix.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems that we face is trying to overcome that, and it's a serious. I think in the fire service in general, that's probably the biggest issue that they have is having people that aren't really skilled mechanically and to be able to put those kind of things together, because the fire service, you go back to muscle memory like you were talking about before, a lot of those skills are basically parallel. And if they don't have them growing up, I was fortunate enough that I did.
Sure.
It's tough for some of these kids.
Well, and I think too, it's like for us, that newer generation, and remember reading about leadership and where the mindset of our of millennials can be. And one of the things that came out of this article I was reading is that if you ask kids like 20 years ago, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I want to be a doctor, rocket scientist, or an astronaut, or whatever. And now there's people that are out there who are like, well, I want to be famous. Like, and they're citing like somebody from Instagram or YouTube, these personalities that are out there. And it's really kind of just odd to me sometimes how, like, we call it the digital crack, but how do I survive without my smartphone? Like, if anything happens to my smartphone, I have a panic attack and I'm going on some kind of medication. It's like, it was the worst week ever. I have PTSD now. I'm like, I was without my iPhone for. I mean,
I kind of saw it too. Coming up, going, graduating. I didn't know what I wanted to do at first when I was in high school. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I want to be a fireman, but do I want to make this a career? Do I want to go on to college? Do I want to do something else? And it was like they're pushing these kids, even from when I was in high school and now I see it all the time. But you got to go to college. If you don't go to college, you're worthless.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trade jobs that aren't being filled by people because they just can't find these kids. These kids want to be on their phone and want to play video games all day. You need plumbers, you need carpenters, you need those things, and all those basically skilled trades we have those guys in the fire service. They kind of, like I said before, they parallel each other.
That's right.
I got a guy who's a carpenter. Well, great. If I have a collapse, he might be able to tell me about structural members and this and that. Or if I have, a sprinkler issue, a guy who's a plumber might be able. Well, this is the service coming in. Kind of those things that you took for granted. I think a number of years ago because you had so many skilled people like that coming into the fire service. You don't really have that now.
Yeah.
So that's
agreed.
It's a huge challenge for
But
everyone,
I think
not only
us
everybody.
as a fire service, right? As a brotherhood, we need to embrace today, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of us get hung up on well, we used to, and it used to be this way.
We always did it this way.
Right. And and I think what happens is the guys with 30 years experience and 40 years experience and those senior men are having a harder time than a guy like me with 24 years experience, right?
Yep.
And so, and then I'm still having a problem, but I can relate a little more because guess what? Here I am. Or guess what? This is a podcast,
Yeah.
right? So all of that, we have to find an equal balance.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you, and you hit on something very important, is that the technical end of things, where today they've taken vocational skills out of high schools and vocational schools are missing now, and it's all computer graphics and marketing and advertising, and it's all computer driven. I understand that. I think, though, you're absolutely right. The fire service was really based upon guys that were blue collar, roll their sleeves up, get the job done. They hit themselves with a hammer. Guess what? They get back up and they finish hammering that nail in. And so we have to find, as the fire service, we have to find that even balance. And I think that takes one side listening to the other and hoping to find that balance. But the tough part is how do we get the newer generation to even want to be in the fire service? And that's the hard part.
Well, and that we want to be leaving this better than
You found
we
it.
found it. And I know, like, for me right now, I'm struggling at work because at the end of this month I lose my senior guy. I lose Craig, and joking Uncle Craig, and he's my aggravation, like because he's got zero left to give. Like he's just like, he'll tell you exactly how it is, but and somebody said, oh, you're gonna lose your headache. I'm like, I ain't losing the headache, I'm gaining one. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, because this guy has that knowledge of like where hydrants are. I swear if there's a storage connection on a rock somewhere, like he'd be like,
know about it.
I'm getting 200 gallons a minute out of this thing. And it's like, and he was a plumber, he's a steam fitter, so like there's times where I want to strangle him because I've heard this line multiple times, but at the end of the day, like you're learning so much about it, and so he goes, well, the plumbing code says, and it's like, but he'll relate it back to like number of toilets for the occupancy. If you have this many people in the building, you have to have this many bathrooms, this many fixtures, and you start looking at stuff like that, and you're like, all right, and then he's like, and then you're supposed to have this and this, and it kind of all builds off that. So
Look what he taught you. Toilets.
yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, he said my whole career has been down the.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
it's good stuff. And it's just as far as like the new generation, like we embrace them, but we go from that known to the unknown for them. I think is a huge struggle for me. And like I used to be good on my feet with it, but now like I'm starting to learn. Like I'm like, all right, who are they following this week? Joe Swizzy Pants? Who's Swizzy Pants? All right. He's the guy that's got the Swizzy Pants on. What's going on?
Right.
I mean, and it's keeping up on this stuff is sometimes it's a little bit, like, for me, I got to learn it just as much because if I don't,
Well, and that's how you have to be relatable, right? You have to be able to relate. So, and I Chris, for you being the chief of department at an age that is younger than most, I think that is only a benefit for you.
Yeah.
Because you're able to maybe bridge that gap, and I think the senior guys, the older guys in the firehouse have their trust and faith in you that you're going to do the right job because they put you in that position.
Yeah.
And the younger guys are looking at you saying, okay, this isn't a 65-year-old man giving me orders or designing this department for the future. It's a 30-year-old man. And so I'm a little more relatable to that. And I think you're in a real good spot. I think, fantastic career so far.
Thank you.
And we'll certainly get you back in here another time to tell some more stories. There's no doubt.
That'd be awesome.
So,
There's some that probably
good.
aren't for the radio, but there's a lot to be shared.
We actually have this thing coming out. It's called National Fire Radio After Hours. And instead of this white light, we have a red light. A little like relaxing jazz music, and I'm sitting here with a Manhattan or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
now we're
like, "Oh, man,
talking.
it's over, Chris.
Now we're talking.
A little smooth jazz, It's nice. It's a relaxing atmosphere.
Yeah.
And
So.
it's, you have to be 18 years or older to watch it. Listen to it, folks. No.
I think we might be able to roll that out. So, Chris, thank you.
No, guys,
I mean,
we
really appreciate you having us.
Thank you guys
And,
very much.
Meet you. Have a
yeah,
good one,
we
brother.
loved having you. And guys, for watching, thank you, Rob and Jeremy. Chris Naylis, Chief of the Bergenfield Fire Department, did a home run of a job tonight for us. And keep watching and keep looking out. There's a lot more material coming out. So take care, everybody. Thank you.
Be
Have a
safe
good night.
out there.